Good morning. Welcome back. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. If you want to call, the number here is 609-6283, 609-6284. Now, our next guest is Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh, who is a senior lecturer in history at the University of the West Indies. And he is also a labor historian. So we are going to talk to him a little bit about the situation in labor in the country and what are the prospects going forward. But before I do, you know, in one of the newspapers this morning, The Guardian in particular, the headline is "No Trust in VAT Cuts," and then they have some sub-headlines. Tax removed from dozens of food items today, that is to say the VAT is being removed. Consumers not confident prices will drop. And Gopi Skoon, that's the Minister of Trade and Industry, to make checks at supermarkets. Now, I want to say something about prices in general in the country. If you have a country that is not producing most of the things that it consumes, then the prices of those items that you do not produce are inevitably dependent on the international prices outside, because you will be importing those things that you need to consume because you are not producing them at home. Now, even in the case where you are producing at home, there are external inputs into the production process. So if you are manufacturing something and you're selling in Trinidad and Tobago, but you have to import the materials that go into the manufacturing, then your inputs also increase, and that puts a pressure on what you are producing at home, because even though you are producing at home, not every element in the production process comes from your location of production. They come from outside, you have to import. And since this pandemic emerged, we have had significant logistical problems with exports and imports. So the first problem that COVID has affected is the production process. This it has affected in every country, whether it is China, the United States, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, or elsewhere. It has affected the production process. So what it means is that you have less goods of many kinds being produced by the production system of the world order. And the second thing is that if you are producing less and you have transportation and logistics problems because workers are not coming out, it means that you have to get the goods from factory to the port. You have to have port workers to deal with these things and unload them on ships. And all of those things create logistical problems, which increases the price of getting a container of any product to another country. And Trinidad and Tobago being an importing country, okay, we use the money from oil and gas to buy whatever we need, and we have not paid attention to the production process, the structuring of the economy. We are not even doing it now. We are not diversifying. So what that does is that it makes us price takers, and the price of everything is going to go up. So this issue of VAT reduction is negligible in the process. Yes, you might take VAT off, but the price of a good that you are paying in the market. Somebody was telling me that, for 3 bars of soap that you use to bathe, which used to be about $8, it is now $13 for those same 3 bars of soap. For food that you import, the prices are much higher. For everything that we import, the prices are going to be higher. So the problem is not one of inflation. The Minister of Finance said that inflation in Trinidad and Tobago is 2%. He must be joking. The issue is not inflation, it is the cost of living. And the cost of living has gone up exponentially. I would say by 30 or 40%. When you check food, when you check consumer items, when you check what else? Everything that you buy in retail, when you check the price of drugs, when you check hardware goods that you need for some little repair in your house, everything is up. So that there is a cost of living problem. And for the Minister of Industry and Trade to be going out to check supermarket, that's a waste of time. That's a public relations exercise. Don't spend your time in stupid activities. It makes no sense. You have no control over the prices in Trinidad and Tobago, and trying to police whether people have reduced in VAT. Of course they'll reduce in VAT. But the prices are going to be higher anyway. And the fact that consumers not confident that the prices will drop, of course they are not confident because they know the realities. They know that a container coming to Trinidad and Tobago is between 60 and 100% more, so in some cases 120% more than it was before. And everybody ultimately pass on the cost of something to the consumer. So it is the consumer that pays at the end. And the fact that you've removed VAT on a few items is not going to make any difference. I am not saying that they shouldn't remove VAT or that that is not a positive step, but it's a positive step in a time in which you have lost control of the economy. And what we should be focusing on, and I want to say this directly to any government members that are listening, what we should be focusing on is on the production process in Trinidad and Tobago. On producing food, first of all, linking that food process system, the food production system, to the process of distribution until it gets to the table of the consumer and householder, and linking it to the production process of agro-processing, and linking it to a system of exports outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So we should be doing that with food, first of all. We should know how much land we have, what we are cultivating and how much land, how much we're going to produce, and where we are going to deploy it. Whether in the supermarkets, whether in the vendor stalls, whether in the agro-processing system, or whether directly for exports. And then we should be looking at the other things that we are producing now outside of agriculture. Everything that we are manufacturing, we should look to see what are the inputs into the manufacturing and which of those things that we can produce or make sense to produce. Maybe it doesn't make sense to produce a lot of things and we can't really do it. But we should begin meticulously to look at that now. And thirdly, we should be looking, because we have a foreign exchange crisis, and the only way you can win foreign exchange is by selling abroad. We should be looking at the export companies and seeing how they can export more goods and services to more places. That is what we should be doing. Okay? And fourthly, we should be looking at what in the country needs to be done to increase the confidence that will get local producers to invest, local businesses to invest, to build partnerships with international firms that would be willing to invest here, and to invite foreign firms to come here and invest on the basis of the assets that we have. So for instance, we are digitizing, we are digitalizing. We should be trying to link the output of graduates. Recently we had graduation at the University of the West Indies. We should use that human capital base as an asset to attract companies that can tap into that asset base. Okay? Those are the things that we should be doing. Going to the grocery to find out if they take off VAT is a waste of time. Don't waste people's time in public relations exercises, for God's sake. So we have as our guest Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh. He's on the line now, and we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to talk to him as soon as we come back.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
You did the right thing. So now we're giving you things. Republic Bank thanks you and wants to reward you for getting vaxxed. Win $5,000 in prizes every week, plus one of 2 cars in December. You took care of your health, and now we're taking care of you. $5,000 and a chance to win a car. See press and log on to republictt.com for details.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited, specialist in PVC ceiling, gypsum ceiling, suspended ceilings, medallions, lights, metal framings, and SPCS flooring, known as vinyl plank. Now introducing Mangalese Foods, wholesale and retail, distributor of the family brand food items. Our range of products include rice, sugar, chickpeas, split peas, and soybean oil. Mangalese Foods deliver exceptional products. We offer timely and efficient service. We are located at 9 Francis Lala Road, Charlieville, Chaguanas. Contact us at 672-9889, 740-5569, or 336-4373. Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
As we celebrate the festival of light over darkness, let Magic Mess Services Limited take away the hassle of your Diwali home cleaning and maintenance needs. With our team of professional service team members, we will ensure your home receives the magic touch. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Shub Diwali from Magic Mess Services Limited.
Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Bo. I am your host, Bo Tiwari, and I want to say thank you for watching, thank you for viewing, thank you for staying with us after this 7 o'clock news. Our guest now is Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh, and we're going to invite him to engage us a little bit. Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Teelucksingh. How are you?
I'm fine.
Let's increase the volume so we can hear him better. Go ahead. How are you doing? Good?
I'm fine.
All right. People are, there is a price problem everywhere in the world. President Joe Biden of the United States was at the COP26 conference, and he used that opportunity, although everybody was concerned about climate and climate response, he used that opportunity to talk about the need for countries to work together to ease the logistical problems so that you can get goods from one part of the country to one part of the world to another. And I mean, what that would do is ease the prices situation in the country, because we are importers, we are price takers, and the price of everything is higher than normal. At the same time, I mean, basically, if you have fixed wages in Trinidad and Tobago, you have had essentially a wage or salary cut, because
Correct.
the price you are paying to live, the cost of living has gone up. And all these notions of inflation and so on, and what the number is here, I think the Minister of Finance mentioned 2%. That is not real. It has nothing to do with reality. It is a joke. They should stop using it. You know, so workers have found themselves in the country not only retrenched and without jobs. They have found themselves not only in a situation where the economy has been locked down, closed down, and they have had to go home without pay and maybe come back to jobs afterwards. And now they are coming to their jobs in a situation where their businesses are not that buoyant. And therefore, there is a lot of stress and strain on the employers themselves and the owners of companies. The only people who have been spared this have been people in the public service who have been secure in their jobs and have been allowed to work from home, but who also face the same problem of price in the grocery, in the hardware, in the marketplace, etc. You want to talk a little bit about what's happening to workers in this society, and what is your sense of how the unions are responding?
Yes. Good morning again, Dr. Tiwari, and to your viewers. I believe that the workers are frustrated. As you mentioned, they are on fixed wages and they are witnessing an increase in food prices. But more importantly, you spoke about the production process earlier. And we have to remember too that farmers, a segment of the population, a key segment, like farmers, and they are very important to reduce the import bill, the food import bill. Farmers face the crisis of flooding every year, predator larceny, even fishermen, they face pirates out there in the sea. So we have to remember too that many of the workers, farmers who might not be unionized, fishermen who are also not unionized, many of them, these people are vulnerable. So we are already living in a society that has been part of the pandemic, and here we have occupations that are not unionized, segments of the population. We have the informal economy. You know, we have illegal immigrants coming in to earn wages too, to compete with our nationals. So there is this additional burden on the working force. And I believe this creates the problem within the society. You know, we tend to talk about unions and their role in society, but we also have to remember that many workers out there are not unionized. We have many contract workers, and these contract workers are also very vulnerable, you know, in this economy. So I believe we need to understand, we need to recognize and appreciate these workers, what they are doing on a daily basis. And we also have to encourage unions to be the voice, not just for labor, but for the entire working class.
Yeah.
Often when our leaders speak, our union leaders, they speak for their members, their membership. But I would like to see unions speaking for those who are not unionized, and find solutions to some of these problems.
Yeah, you used a term there which is important. You talk about the working poor. We have poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a reality. I think a loose use of numbers would tell us that it's about 30%, and that was pre-COVID. With COVID now, and loss of jobs and loss of household incomes, etc., that probably has increased. You have a number of other people who are vulnerable, can't work, etc., living on social welfare, which are fixed income, fixed receipts that they receive. That is also a problem. And you have a number of workers now with the rise in prices and the reduction in purchasing power who are in a much more severe situation of poverty. Now, you talk about the union leaders speaking for everybody, but don't we? I have on occasion here, I've had Mr. Roger of the OWTU, and I have asked him very frontally, would you be willing to work with government to try and find a solution to all these challenging problems we've had? I've had Mr. Duke. I had him about a week ago, and we played the recording and subsequently talked to him live last week. And he has said, yes, he's willing to sit down and work if government is prepared. Don't we need a much more concerted, organized, integrated, collaborative approach to deal with the problems that have emerged because of COVID? Because we had problems before COVID, but they are exacerbated now. Yeah?
I fully agree with you. We, as you would remember, we have been having, and we had in the past, the tripartite dialogue between
Yes.
government, employers, and the unions. And I believe last year the unions pulled out in frustration. There is this antagonistic relationship between the unions and the employers, and the unions and the governments. And I think that the unions need to realize that it's not just sitting down at the bargaining table and hammering out a wage agreement, hammering out a contract. We are all part of this pandemic, and we now have to see ourselves as social partners. The social dialogue, the cooperation is even more necessary now because the socio-economic disparities have worsened. The labor markets are no longer resilient. The unions have to realize there's an interconnectedness between the economy and the workforce. And it is only when we have that partnership we could have a roadmap for sustainable recovery.
Yeah. So we need to build this partnership, but do you think the climate is right to do this? Because if we can't do it under conditions of COVID where everybody is under pressure, I mean, let's be frank, government is under pressure, opposition is under pressure,
Correct.
businesses are under pressure, their employees are under pressure, workers are under pressure, people who are not working are under pressure. It is a highly pressurized situation, and there is only a small percent of the population who have, I would say, significant wealth and means that can withstand this kind of crisis. And that might be a small percentage of the population, but by and large, if you are working class, if you are middle class, as long as you are dependent on wages and earnings and fixed incomes, and even if you are investing, you having reduced profitability, etc., and less money to invest, I mean, the situation is one that requires collaborative engagement. And how do we get to that point, you think?
I feel there's a need for more intense dialogue, and it's not just talk shops, because too often we have these meetings and these seminars and it ends up as a talk shop with no practical measures and nothing being implemented. The ideas never materialize. So I feel that what we need to do is we need to have a blueprint. We need to say that, you know what, we're going to implement this model. We're not just going to import a model from a developed country or an Asian country and use it here. We are going to develop a model for Trinidad and Tobago to get us out of this situation, this economic situation. We're going to develop a model that could be used in the Caribbean. So I feel we need to do that. We need to stop believing that the answers are in a textbook, an economics textbook or a political textbook. But I want to say something that the population will understand is that many people out there, they felt a bit betrayed that the property tax was introduced during this serious economic scenario. And I feel this is what will make, this is something like the property tax that will make the unions hesitant to have regular dialogue with the government.
You think it's a stumbling block to engagement, right? Okay?
Correct.
Why do you think the unions will respond that way?
The unions would have expected, and not just unions here in our country, but unions expect the governments to have more empathy, to be more sympathetic with the people. They're already paying high prices for foods. They already have to pay utility bills, and here we have an additional burden on our backs. So I feel that many workers have been complaining about this, this additional tax being put on them.
Yeah, in the budget presentation by the Minister of Finance, he indicated that he had instructed the CPO to meet with the various unions, etc. More particularly the PSA, because the PSA basically has most of the public service officers and workers under its jurisdiction. And I had Watson Duke here, and I asked him, he said, well, it's a good strategy by the government to say that they are going to engage us. But I don't know if it is going to make any sense, because the Minister of Finance said 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, and 1% in the fifth year. And that was pre-COVID. And now that we have COVID and the situation is worse, he doesn't understand what they are going to be negotiating about. And he doubted the sincerity of the approach of the government and what leeway, freedom the chief personnel officer had to negotiate with the unions. And then he said something very important. He said, it's not only about money. Negotiations are not only about money. It's not only about percentage increases, that there are many things that we can talk about to make the quality of life of the worker better, and to make the quality of life of the public servant better. Now, I must say that there is a lot of I would place a lot of value on what Mr. Duke said, not for who he is, but for what he said, the substance of what he said. And secondly, and I think that there is a problem of the Minister of Finance simply saying that the CPO will negotiate without a framework and context for negotiations going forward between employer and unions generally in the context of the current situation in Trinidad and Tobago. You want to speak to this a little bit, please?
Yes, certainly. And I have noticed, this is my personal opinion, that previous governments, including this government, they tend to let the CPO take front. You know, as if you're fighting a war, you would send out your soldiers first, and then you would stay in the back if you're a general. And the CPO, personally, I believe it's a delayed tactic. I'm hoping that it is not. Often, you know, to keep the unions quiet, to neutralize, to weaken the unions, you know, to make them appear less radical and less militant. Ministers in the past have said, you know what, we're going to have discussions and we'll let the CPO deal with this. And sometimes the CPO sits at the bargaining table and bureaucracy, there's a long, drawn-out process and it frustrates the worker. I will give you a good example. There are lecturers, academic staff at the Cipriani Labour College, and they have been waiting for more than 10 years for a wage increase. And I've been hearing, you know, talk that they're going to meet with the CPO, they have met with the CPO. So this is one incident in which we see there's been a long, drawn-out, lengthy, frustrating process.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we kind of moving almost unconsciously in our dialogue to the need for a different kind of framework of partnership and collaboration in going forward. You know, with the vaccination, government and business got together with other private sector institutions, and there was a collaboration, and that vaccination drive went very well. It was the most efficient management of the vaccination process in Trinidad and Tobago. And it showed really how business and government working together could get a simple thing done, which could otherwise have been very complicated and complex and ineffective. But there are other calls, you know, for public-private partnership, which is to say government doesn't have money, private sector has money, there's tremendous liquidity in the banks. Maybe if government and private sector got together to do things, we could get some things done. And there are other instances in which instead of sitting at the bargaining table and trying to hit each other over the head and trying to negotiate from positions of 0, 0, 0, 0, and the other side saying, you know, we want 20% or 25%, and you try and find, I mean, there has to be a different approach. It seems to me that COVID is a God-given opportunity for reasonableness and collaborative engagement to thrive. Are we missing the boat in Trinidad and Tobago?
We are missing the boat, and you talk about that collaboration. And what I've realized is the collaboration is usually short-lived. It is temporary. It is not something sustaining. It is not something that would work for 5 years or 10 years. We sort of will relapse into that, you know, relationship where there's an uneasiness and there's hostility. So I agree with you. There is a need for collaboration. The pandemic has touched many lives and has showed us how fragile life is and how we must value our lives. So I agree with you, but I also want to add that the collaboration with NGOs, with governments, with the private sector, it has not generated permanent solutions and practical solutions. You and your viewers would realize that we would see a lot of PR occurring. People are giving out salary relief grants, food vouchers, hampers. We cannot continue giving out hampers and food vouchers And this is where I return to something like agriculture. Marketing an aggressive campaign could benefit our society.
We'll talk about that when we come back. I've got to take a break now. But when we come back, we'll start with that issue of agriculture and what it can do, and then take the discussion from there. All right? Thank you very much for watching. This is Brighter Morning for Bo. Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari. We're talking with Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh of the University of the West Indies, an historian and a very well-read and written historian on labor relations in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. And we break now for commercials, and when we come back, we continue the discussion.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
You did the right thing. So now we're giving you things. Republic Bank thanks you and wants to reward you for getting vaxxed. Win $5,000 in prizes every week, plus one of 2 cars in December. You took care of your health, and now we're taking care of you. $5,000 and a chance to win a car. See press and log on to republictt.com for details.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited, specialist in PVC ceiling, gypsum ceiling, suspended ceilings, medallions, lights, metal framings, and SPCS flooring, known as vinyl plank. Now introducing Mangalese Foods, wholesale and retail, distributor of the family brand food items. Our range of products include rice, sugar, chickpeas, split peas, and soybean oil. Mangalese Foods deliver exceptional products. We offer timely and efficient service. We are located at 9 Francis Lala Road, Charlieville, Chaguanas. Contact us at 672-9889, 740-5569, or 336-4373. Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
As we celebrate the festival of light over darkness, let Magic Mist Services Limited take away the hassle of your Diwali home cleaning and maintenance needs. With our team of professional service team members, we will ensure your home receives the magic touch. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Shub Diwali from Magic Mist Services Limited.
Yeah, welcome back. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. We have Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh here. We will continue. You're making a point about agriculture and what it can do and the difference it can make. You want to explore and expand on that point?
Certainly. As you and your viewers would realize, land is a very precious commodity. And you would also know that many residential areas are springing up. People are building houses. Once you build houses on that land, or you build a highway, that land is lost forever. You can't regain that land. And I'm seeing the growth in the housing sector. That is fine. I have no problem with that. But we also have to appreciate, the importance of agriculture, growing our own food. Why must we import something like rice? Why did we have to close down the sugar industry? Couldn't we have make it more efficient? But what I want to say is something even more important. We have to change our mindset. We believe that manual labor is something less dignified. Many of us have a colonial mentality. We want our sons and daughters to become maybe a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. a teacher maybe. Nobody wants to say, that my son sells watermelon, my son, plants corn, my daughter might be a seamstress, my daughter is a gardener. So that stigma of agriculture is something of a colonial mentality that continues with us today in 2021. So I also feel that, yes, we need to get our young people, the older persons, into agriculture, let them appreciate, the beauty of producing food from the land and also the economic importance. But we also have to remove that stereotype that it is something degraded. And this is something from slavery and indentureship days, where manual labor was looked down upon.
But agriculture itself is changing. I mean, a lot of people are getting into agriculture now in which the land is not so important. They're getting into vertical agriculture, or they're getting
hydroponics.
Into hydroponics, and basically it's technologically driven agriculture. And I think that is one of the things that we can do to diversify agricultural production in Trinidad and Tobago and also increase production. But you mentioned the issue of slavery and indenture. And we don't have a lot of time left. And I just wanted to tap one thing which I know that you've done. At an important period in Trinidad and Tobago's history, we had a situation in Trinidad and Tobago in which a number of workers basically found themselves in a situation marching to make a point in San Fernando. They were confronted by the authorities and the police at that time under the colonial order. And in fact, many of those people were killed. Many of those people had in fact been indentured workers or come from that tradition. And they were really marching, you might say, for their cultural freedom. And that came to be known as the Hussein riots, which became known by others. I think Raviji gave it the name, the Jihadi Massacre. You have written about this matter. Tell me something about it. Tell your viewers something about it as we talk about indenture and as we approach Diwali on the 4th of November.
The massacre occurred on the 30th of October, 1884. And
that's a few days ago. The birth date would be a few days ago.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And it is something that is relevant today because in 1884, it wasn't just indentured laborers, and most of these indentured laborers were Hindus, but there were also Muslims involved in building of the tajas, in the processions. We had persons who had served their time, free Indians. You had women, children, age and gender barriers being crossed. But more importantly, you had non-Indians. You had Africans, the children, the ex-slaves, who were part of this procession. And it was a form of unity. It was a form of expression and a form of identity of a colonial people who was subjected to the harshest conditions during the colonial era. And despite regulations, despite laws prohibiting them from taking part in this procession, these brave souls persisted. And, it is a symbol for us today to understand that the colonial authorities never wanted unity. Imperial powers rule by keeping us divided, divide and rule. That is how they conquer. So we have to be very mindful of not just governments, but individuals who will want to keep the working class divided, who will want to keep the population divided. And in my research, I've seen incidents where there were visible, concerted attempts to keep us divided. July 1934, June 1937, the riots, the Black Power era of 1970, and even during the NAR regime, we had the bloody coup in 1990, and the NAR had brought certain different elements together, a united force. So we have these attempts, and this is what I have learned from the Jihadi Massacre, that the persons who were killed, they were brave people, and we need to have this bravery return to Trinidad and Tobago.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today or visit.
Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Bo. I'm sorry, we had a little technical glitch there. But Isn't it ironic that we had all of this unity to fight the colonials? But in independence and republicanism, we have so much division in this society as we try to navigate a future in a very, very difficult world system. You just have a minute to respond to that, and you'll have the last word.
I want to say firstly that the population, we need to stop viewing issues with political lenses. Too often we say, well, it's a PNM legislation, or it's a UNC motion, and we need to stop believing that politics should taint our views and our perceptions. And I believe that we need to put aside things, and we need to see our country as one. We need to see each other as fellow citizens and treat each other as Trinidadians and Tobagonians. And I also want to wish your viewers Shubh Diwali.
All right, Shubh Diwali to you too. I want to thank you for coming on. I hope we can get another opportunity to do this, and we could talk about the bigger issues, not just labor, but other issues of national cohesion. But thank you very much,
Correct.
Dr. Teelucksingh, for being here and for chatting with me this morning and enlightening our viewers. And we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I have the High Commissioner for India, and I also have the Chairman and CEO of IMA. So we will have a discussion then. Thank you for watching A Brighter Morning with Bo. This is Bo Tiwari. We hand over to Andrew Chan and the news.